Well, good evening, race fans, and welcome back to another week of racing here at Invictus Racing League. My name is Webbo. I'm here to take you through tonight's possible championship decider. We've got a title shot on the line already, and it's only round 11 of 15. We're going to Australia for the new layout around Albert Park in Melbourne. And joining me as ever, although a little under the weather, so forgive him if he's a little bit low-key, it's JP. Welcome, JP.
Good evening. How are you, Webbo?
Yeah, doing okay, thank you. Looking forward to seeing whether Ghost can cinch this at the first time of asking. He's got, what is it, 8 wins to his name already this season. Could be going for a record number of wins in a single Invictus Racing League season. But the new challenge here of a different layout around Australia, we were just chatting about it before the stream, should be interesting. Welcome to Burmeister and to Ghost himself, who have already joined the chat, and to AJ or ARL, who are here just checking in before we get underway. And hello to Rickert as well. Do what everybody has done so far. Say hello. And also tell us who you're supporting if you're not one of our many drivers. We have 12 drivers today, JP, but hopefully around the short and twisty confines of Albert Park, we should still have a good evening's racing ahead of us.
Yeah, it should be quite interesting. Obviously, as we say, new layout for Australia. Well, I say new layout. It's pretty much the same with a few tweaks. Obviously, a few bits are a bit wider. Obviously, the turn 8-9 chicane, as it were, is now basically a flat-out right-hander of turn 8, and the slight modification to what is now turn 11, just after the third DRS zone. So it's going to be interesting to see how people have adapted to the new circuit and see if these changes are going to make any difference to the racing we're going to get, whether we're going to see a few more overtakes or not.
Yeah, I'll take us quickly through the drivers' standings with Ghost unsurprisingly on top at almost 100, almost double the points of second place. Ghost has 137 with those 8 wins, 1 second place and a single 2-point finish to his name. Then comes Stefan in 78, Livingwall on 74, so Stefan finally overtook Livingwall as a result of the previous race. Burmeister and Delange come next. ARL, Speed Queen, Luke Bailey, Reshka and Ivan Beloff, your top 10. But there is still lots to play for, even if we do complete a championship title for Ghost tonight, and we'll take you through that as and when we see the results and how things are looking. But a win would get him very, very close, and he's already had plenty of those. In the Constructors' Championship, though, it is still very much all to play for. The Alpine team of Reshka with Ghost have 166 points from Haas on 146, and we know after last week's double Haas podium and their entry into the press conference that they are both gunning for that championship title, and have been finishing the strongest lately as well as a pairing. Then come Alfa Romeo on 140, still well within a shout there of the championship, but a long way back from the rest of our teams. Alfa Tauri on 62, Red Bull on 50, Ferrari on 43. We have Mercedes on 35, Aston Martin 9, McLaren in the tail on 4 points, although honestly not being represented a great deal of the time. But we will obviously be talking a lot about constructors over the races to come, but tonight JP could really be all about Ghost.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a chance to wrap up the drivers tonight, albeit probably a slim one. Other things have to go his way, really. But the bottom line is, if he finishes lower than 6th, he will not get the driver's title, regardless of other results at this stage. Yeah. So 6th or higher is really the aim for Ghost, and then it really does depend on what happens to the likes of Livingwall and Stefan. Really are the two closest competitors to him.
Yeah, got it. So we'll keep an eye on them. They can obviously keep this championship alive by staying as close as possible into the podium challenging positions. Guess who's the first driver
ARL.
Out on track?
I was going to say ARL's the first man on track, so should we go for a lap with him?
Go for it.
So down the main straight, it is 5.2 kilometres of Australian public road into turn 1 and 2 as per normal. Flick of the curb on the right hand side, flick it through the left, try not to take too much extra shift, you will spin the car. First DRS zone down to turn 3, hit the brakes just on that light board for turn 3, and we've almost spun the car as we head towards 4, well held by the Alfa Tauri. Turn 5 should be flat, is flat, just no lifting off the board through there anymore. Turn 6 and 7, this has been widened, so 5th gear through here, you absolutely launch it through. Then into this flat out right hander of 8, which just keeps going and going. You have this minor straight and then it keeps going again, where the old chicane used to be. And it all just wraps all the way around to the left. I don't know if they got the DRS zone on this one here as well, but normally it would be. The turn 9-10 chicane, trickier now. I think we've invalidated the lap because of it. But we keep going anyway. Third DRS zone of the lap normally. Into turn 11, now this has changed. This is a complete 90-degree bend now. And with a horrible curve on the inside, you don't want to cut it. Turn 12, 5th with a bit of a lift. Turn 13, the hairpin. Again, don't touch the curb, you'll spin the car. Turn 14, open the steering up as early as you can to get on the throttle. And we're going to come across the line. Obviously this won't count as a time, but that is a lap of the Australian Grand Prix.
Fantastic stuff. Great work again, JP. IRL hanging on here. Did keep going for it. I think he deployed a lot of ERS as a result of making that error coming out of turn 3, sorry. Living Wall is on his next, on our next attack lap, I guess, as he goes down towards that turn 3 into the car park hatched markings. And I always find this a really difficult corner to get just spot on. Turn 4. Turn 5 should be just fine now in the new handling model, as JP was saying. But it does take a lot of getting used to when we've spent years and years racing around the same setup here. I keep wanting to hit the brakes as I enter turn 8, but Living Wall, no such problems. He's obviously been doing plenty of practice. He's got a purple first sector for himself, of course, on these first runs. Seems to navigate that chicane well. I think JP will see drivers take different lines and different gears through that chicane at turn 9 and 10.
Yeah, it very much depends what your car setup is, and also obviously you have to brake slightly earlier now for it because you're arriving at such a speed. Obviously prior to that, obviously with the chicane in place, you weren't arriving absolutely flat out. Now you are. So obviously the braking point is slightly different. As Ivan sets the quickest lap, what's Living Wall going to do? He doesn't really go to Ivan, a 1:18.0 so far, the benchmark, and here comes Stefan.
Stefan straight in there, no messing, at 1:18.025. Quite sure what to expect tonight in terms of lap times, but I dare say we'll be in the 17s at very least. Good evening to Sab and to Rickert, who say hello in the chat. Sab's cheering on Delange. I know Delange hasn't been feeling too well, so our best wishes go to him. I hope he has a good race and the adrenaline gets him through. It's a difficult one, racing when you're not feeling too good. Tirak then to the line in the Alpha Tauri, as ARL, his teammate, did tease us on those mediums last week, and he's done the same again for his first lap. Tirak beats his teammate by 7/10 on a different tyre. I would imagine he should probably be expecting to beat him by even more than that, but championship leader Ghost is on track right now, JP, and closing out the final sector, I think.
Yeah, it's looking like a good clean lap from Ghost. Again, this is probably more of a benchmark or a buffer time for him. He's actually invalidated going through the last sector. Which is not ideal because this first run is meant to be kind of like your settling in run. Normally we call a banker lap, and I mean that lap would have been a 1:17.7 had he not invalidated, so he would have been a good 3/10 clear as he spins coming through turn 2 on the in lap. Bit of a surprise that because he took a lot of curb into turn 1, which is a little bit silly really on your in lap. Because obviously, if you bin the car there and you hit the wall, that's your qualifying over number, then you'd have been left with a very difficult evening.
Well, his teammate in the championship leading Alpine team, Reshka, goes 7th and 18.6. Speed Queen did log a time, but it looks to be that she's gone for a charge lap here on a temperature building lap. She's now really going for it, I do believe. ERS being deployed, so I do think this one is going to mean something for Speed Queen. We'll keep an eye on her as she's allowed the rest of the runners just to sweep the track clean, so doing it in style. Good evening to Martin, who joins us, and let us know, Martin, who you're here to support. If you've told us before, I'm afraid I've forgotten. Speed Queen was threading the needle through 9 and 10. Looked like she carried good speed there, JP.
Yeah, obviously a lot of these drivers probably going to be quite impressive through 9 and 10, being the top tier. up to the final couple of corners for speed green. Looks like a good lap so far. It'd be interesting to see whether this cycle, this outlap, cycle lap, and then flying lap would be a good thing, but looks like she's getting a bit slower with a 1:18.4, probably not as quick as she was expecting. But obviously the problem is that the tyres still wear on that effective...
Right. Oh, smoke round coming through turn 9 and 10. He's managed to keep it out of the barriers and didn't destroy the DRS marker board, but Smoke, I think, bottoming out slightly there over the little bump on the inside that does stop the drivers from cutting turn 10, but unfortunately it seemed to spin the Ferrari around.
Yeah, you definitely can't cut that chicane like you used to on old games, that's for certain. And then the biggest part of that is not necessarily just the bump, because the bump's always been there if you cut it too much. Is actually because the cars are now ground effect.
Yep.
Obviously, as you go over that curb and that bump, obviously the car starts to lift off the ground, which means you lose all of that ground effect downforce, and that just makes the car light. And as shown by Smoke there, it's still very easy to put it around. But another yellow flag around that sector, but it looks like it's just the Alpha Tower getting out of the way of Simply. Okay,
well the driver's just warming up, getting ready for their next laps. Simply, as you say, on a fast one at the moment. He's currently 5th of 18.4. Grid led by Stefan at the moment with 9 minutes to go. 1:18.0 the benchmark time. I do expect us to get some more lap time in here. Martin, another fan of Delange, so that's good to see. Delange's got plenty of support with him tonight. And Smoke just going through the Rolex section at the start of Sector 2. Now into that, well, kind of never-ending turn 8 that turns two ways really before you then get turn 9. I guess they don't really count turn 8 as one continuous turn, but it's not really a straight either. So breaking down then into turn 11, you can see the really sharp angle and wide entry to turn 11. I hope we get some overtaking in there because that will definitely be good for the highlights to try and get cars competing around there. Smoke then from 11th on the grid to the line. What will this one bring him to? And it only goes 9th, I think partly because he spent quite a lot of ERS on that first lap for invalidating and, well, not invalidating, but technically having a problem. Living Wall in P3 for Alfa Romeo. I think this is a build lap, given the fact that he's got almost a full battery left. Yeah, there we go. Let's see, Ghost appears to be on track.
Delange is on a fast lap at the moment. He is around 2/10 quicker at the second sector, which would only put him up to around 5th place, just ahead of Simply here. He's got to get a good third sector to really challenge the top spots. Out of the final corner, what can he achieve here? Got a yellow flag, I think there's a Ferrari on Alfa Romeo.
Wow.
And Delange was at a 17.9, so 4/10 he's managed to find in that last sector.
Yeah, and I think he'll find another 10th by using a more aerodynamic helmet as well, Delange. He's gone for that awful goldfish helmet. Stefan is going quicker though, and he's well within range here of taking that provisional pole position back again. You could tell the Haas driver really up for this one in the last few races, and this one in particular, flying from the off, and I think attacking this qualifying as he means to go on. Hasn't gained a lot through sector 2. Oh wow, just stays valid with maybe just half of the outside edge of the outside tyre there, going through turn 10. 11 survives 11. A lot of drivers coming out of 11 and 13, 14 in 4th gear just to minimise the wheel spin. It always gets greasy and slippery coming out of these two corners. So you've always got to take care. Living Wall goes fastest, 17.799. Soon to be beaten, I wonder, will it, by Stefan, as across the lines on a 17.582 with a monster final sector. And Ghost straight up to provisional pole. First decent lap by our championship leader. Ghost goes 1:17.489. Didn't let Stefan endure that for more than about 20 seconds there, JP.
No, and Ivan has actually gone off at the turn 9-10 chicane. Looks like no damage, he's got away with it, but that's not what he was been hoping for in this current lap. But yeah, I mean, Delange was a fantastic lap to begin with. Then Living Wall, what's the end of Living Wall's lap? Very, very tidy, but Ghost and Stefan seemingly in a slightly other league right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Stefan's 10th behind, but that's in reality between those.
Martin, liking what he's seeing from Delange, says didn't practice, still feeling ill, and he's still faster than Martin. So, yeah, Delange. I wonder if feeling unwell will affect him more towards the end of the race distance, but because qualifying, it's quite easy to dial yourself in there, JP, just to get a single lap out. It's the arduous nature of a full race that will start to tell, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is not going to be an easy race by any stretch. That is for certain. I'm just watching Brian's in-lap. He's actually on a hot lap. Tirax not. Speed Queen.
I'm waiting to see Speed Queen's sector time here, but we'll see. The sector times come quite quickly, so I'll be as surprised as everybody else as she crosses the line if she gets a particularly different time from before, as I haven't seen any sectors. Here she goes then towards the line, bright yellow and pink helmet on the car. As she goes over the line then, that was a good climb of half a second up to P5 into the 117. So we've got top 5 drivers in the same 117 marker, with Ivan Beloff at 118.0, very close behind. How's Smoke doing at the moment? Is he on a hot one? Yes, he is. No?
I don't know whether he's just finished or he just started, but I know he's gone 18.9, so he's only 1.5 away. I'll keep an eye on it, Willow. I don't know. I think everyone else is pretty much coming back to the pits anyway, so...
Yeah, we've got a Haas on track. That's Burmeister. Is Burr about to set a lap, I wonder?
I think he's due to come in.
It's a slow one, yeah. Cool. So, Smoke picking a good moment to help the track for himself. He takes a 1.5 improvement through Sector 1. We'll get the Sector 2 times shortly. He's got the Red Bull just ahead, hopefully. Speed Queen will stay out of the way. And he's gained a half a tenth again. So up to 0.2 of a second, Smoke faster. But it was that final sector that was not great for him before. So let's see. He's currently 0.3 off P11. And on target perhaps to try and get up into the top 10.
Into the final sector, nicely done for that last penultimate corner. It's very hard, it's very easy actually to get that very wrong. And either run wide or spin the car, and it's an 18.3, which is a great lap from him up to 8th place, and just now 1.2 just under, separating the whole field, which is good to see.
That's what you like to see, absolutely. We've got outlaps with Ghost, Ivan Beloff. We've got outlaps for Simply and Reshka, but we'll focus perhaps on Ghost as he bids to try and extend his lead. Currently on his outlap, of course. Who do you fancy in the chat? ARL has stopped by to say he's had a messy lap, so I'll be hoping for a little bit better this time. He's on his outlap too. But it's time for Ghost versus Stefan. Livingwall and Delange, as usual, there in the Alfa Romeos. There or thereabouts, JP. Should be a good showdown, this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ivan possibly going to be the first man to start his lap in the final set. So I'll keep an eye on that, see how he goes. But he's got a little bit of time to make up. Just the 0.6 for the Ferrari man. Say just 0.6, that's actually quite a large amount of time in this sport, but we'll see how he goes.
Almost looks like Ghost. Well, Ghost has definitely changed his helmet design. Similar colour scheme, but changed his helmet design slightly. It's almost, from the side, looks a little bit Jacques Villeneuve-like. And then so Ghost about to start his next lap. A bit more black on the helmet on the top, but he's looking at a 1:17.489. Let's take your view as you go through this then, JP. Where is he gaining time, do you think?
It very much depends. The biggest problem is knowing where they've lost the time on their previous laps, because the problem is you can gain time almost anywhere on a new lap. It just depends where you lost it or didn't quite gain it the last time. I think that's just people trying to get some space, which hopefully I can always just clip the curb a little bit too harsh, I think. To just force the front end a little bit wide for Ivan. He's got away with it, but that wouldn't have helped his chances here through the last couple of corners. Luckily, traffic won't be a problem.
He's within 1/10 of where he's been before, but he's over his time at the moment. Where's Ivan then?
Ivan has gone 4th place with a 17.8. which is
Nice
good
improvement
time.
as Ghost gets a little bit understeery, possibly a little bit too much speed going through turn 11. Might have snatched a break there on the inside. Staying away from the apex curbs, that might be wise. And he'll get a small toe off the Red Bull in front. Ghost then goes to the line. It will be close, and it's a new fastest time, a 17.403. It is mighty close out there, and Stefan has got almost a 10th in the first sector, JP.
Yeah, I'm on board with Stefan because this should be an absolute whirlwind of a lap. We have got someone off at the chicane though. He's nearly 2/10 up. 0.18 puts him on a par. That's a great bit of control, but he's invalidated.
He's invalidated. I do wonder if the spinning Tirac, I think it was, on the track there, distracted him slightly at the most crucial moment. We'll see in the chat later if Stefan makes any comment about that one. Living Wolf from 4th position looks to try and improve his starting grid, and he's just got his teammate a 1:17.621. Who's next? We've got Speed Queen coming through the turn 9-10 piff paff chicane, I guess. Let's see how she is going to finish the lap. I think Reshka might be about to finish a lap as well. And we've got I think Simply in P9. Let's see, I think Reshka's going slow on the way out of the final corner. Getting out of the way perhaps, or in the pits. Can't quite tell. Speed Queen's on her way in as well. That might be everybody done and dusted. It's Ghost once again on pole. Couldn't pick a better place to start an attempt at taking the championship there.
No, absolutely. And it's a bit of a shame that for Stefan, that was going to be a hell of a lap. But yeah, he just... I don't know where the yellow flag would have distracted him too much. I wonder if he just tried taking a little bit too much curb through the right-hand part of the 9-10 chicane, and it did look like the car kicked a little bit. You could just see the opposite lock coming on the car. So yeah. I do wonder if that's possibly where that's happened. Is just a little bit too much curb, getting the car a little bit loose. But I mean, if you get it right and you don't invalidate your lap, that is worth a bit of time. So for the likes of Stefan, it was kind of like the right thing to do.
Well, just an update on conditions before we get the grid. Oh, we've got the grid. I'll talk about conditions in a second. JP, do you want to take us through the starting grid?
So we'll wait for it all to load up. Here we go. So Ghost takes yet another pole position for the year, but it was a close fought one with Stefan once again, who joins him on the front row. Row 2 will be the Alfa Romeos, who lock it out with Livingwall and Delange. Row 3 is Ivan and Speed Queen. Row 4, Burmeister ARL. Row 5 is Simply and Smoke. And row 6, Tirac and Reshka. And not ideal, really. Everyone in an Alpine sandwich. And that's not
that is a big
for,
sandwich.
It's not ideal, though, for Alpine in terms of constructors.
No, I'd be calling that bookmarking the grid, but sandwich is still pretty good. I quite like the visual idea of a sandwich piled up like that. Anyway, we better get going because it's time to get racing very shortly. We are expecting dry conditions at the start, but Reshka and Delange tell me, as does ARL, that we are expecting rain come the end of the race. So that could make things pretty interesting at the end. We've got 12 drivers for you tonight, but it'll seem more like more drivers around these tight, twisty street circuit style corners, this Park Island setting. So just waiting our customary wait. So this is the moment you get to like the video and to make sure you get your podium predictions in the chat, please. Otherwise, after the lights go out, it's much reduced kudos. JP, anyone? Do you fancy anybody for the win apart from Ghost?
I mean, I think we're looking at Stefan, really, aren't we? In terms of recently, who is who has been challenging him. I mean, those two have had close races. Obviously, you got Livingwall as well. I think he could probably put a bit of a dampener on Ghost's parade, shall we say, for this end of season. Obviously, you're into the final third.
And what chance do you think today of a two-stopper around here? Is this a nailed-on one-stopper?
I would suggest so. I think everyone's going to be looking at a medium and hard in whichever order they fancy here. I wouldn't have said it was a massively degrading circuit, but being a street circuit and with the nature of the corners now, I'd be surprised if we saw a two-stop, but someone might try it for just to be a bit different and to see what would happen.
Chance of safety car pretty high, I'd say, as well around here. You can clatter the walls and rebound back into the racetrack quite easily, and of course chance of collisions pretty high. I say we will make sure that we go through the championship chances and mathematics as and when they apply later in the race. But our focus, of course, will be on the race itself. ARL says dry 60. Does that mean 60 in-game minutes? I'm assuming so. 60% wet. Dry 60%, wet around 40. I don't know what that translates to, but if that's race distance or what.
I think what Errol's trying to say there is 60% of the race is due to be dry and 40% of the race is due to have some wet conditions. So what he's basically saying, we're looking at some changeable conditions for the race.
Good. Okay. So we may not all those drivers tuning in to work out their strategy for tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday night races here in the chat. With mixed conditions, they may not get their ideal strategy nailed in. Just a few seconds to go before we're about to see the starting lights then of this Australian Grand Prix, round 11 of our 15-round championship. Will we see the 10th win from Ghost? The lights are on. We're ready to go, and it's time to drop the clutch and go, go, go. You can see Ghost just counter-steering away from the line, and it looks like Stefan away very, very fairly and easily to go side by side. He's already ahead into turn one. Ghost treading very, very gingerly there around the corner, and as are the Alfa Romeos, who tried to go side by side, but Speed Queen jumps one of them at least, and is challenging for the second one down into turn three. There's no way through for Speed Queen as a good line is held by the lead Alfa Romeo driver Delange, and further back we've got some action and passing JP, but that's how things stand at the front.
Yeah, Ivan was under pressure, and ARL had a little half spin through turn two.
Ghost getting turn four all wrong. And now placed his hand over fist into that new turn 8. We've got damage on the car, it seems. We've got something falling off. There was definitely debris, and he's throwing up a whole bunch of extra sparks. I didn't catch exactly what went down with Ghost. Can he get the car wrestled back under control? I don't know if the tyre selection has had anything to do with those hard tyres on his car. Stefan Delange on the mediums. Speed Queen very typically on the hard tyres, but is up to P3. Ghost still very much feeling the car in P6 here, JP.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything falling off in terms of the front wing, and we wouldn't see much of the damage. Stefan in already.
So does that indicate that it was Stefan and Ghost came together in some way? Possibly.
Was it Stefan's front wing?
It could have been part, yeah.
It is a new front wing for Stefan. So damage for Stefan. It was his end plate that came off the car.
Got it. So it was obviously Ghost who driven over it, but Ghost was very wide, so it wouldn't surprise me if there was a little bit of contact. Obviously nothing huge, but I don't imagine Stefan's feeling too generous to Ghost right now, pitting from the lead. Now the lead has been taken by Delange, who's not feeling particularly well, but if you could choose anywhere to be at this point in the race feeling under the weather, it would be out in front by more than a second.
Yeah, absolutely, breaking the DRS toe, but Speed Queen is looking fast, and she will probably be trying to use her ERS to get into range here. And look out, even though obviously DRS should come into effect next lap, the main straight and the straight after turn 2, you won't see any DRS until lap 4, because the detection point is before the lap begins.
Absolutely, yeah. Very good info. They will be able to hit the DRS coming out of turn 10, I believe, is the next DRS release button. Ghost gets a place back against Ivan Beloff. That looked very generous from Ivan Beloff. He knows it's a long race to come. I suspect he doesn't think his battle today will be with Ghost. It was that would probably explain that easy pass down into turn 14 and completed through turn 13 for Ghost. So back up to 4th, and he survived that one pretty well. So he's got Livingwall in front of him. That's his main championship rival as things stand. Obviously, you've got Stefan in 10th, some 18 seconds away from Tirac in P9. The Alfa Tauri's in P8 and P9 together. But Delange leads by 1.3 seconds from Speed Queen. Living Wall, Ghost, Ivan Beloff, Burmeister, Smoke, ARL and Tirac all within DRS range of Speed Queen's lead car there on the hard tyres.
Yeah, I'm slightly surprised that Stefan's decided to go with another set of mediums. I'm surprised he hasn't gone on to the hards, because obviously Ghost is going to have mediums to end this race, and I feel that would have given Stefan a slightly nicer strategical ability.
There goes our first overtake into turn 12. That was Living Wall with the DRS, the first opportunity, and didn't need a second invitation. Found a gap down the inside, and again, Speed Queen not fighting too hard at this stage. It's lap 3 of 29, obviously a short circuit around Albert Park. So yeah, lots of racing still to come, but Speed Queen is going to be vulnerable now with the DRS. Perhaps she fancied having the DRS rather than playing defensive too much, JP, for lap after lap.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing here, I mean, is this possibly showing the difference between mediums and hards here around Albert Park? Obviously, being a street circuit is not necessarily going to have the same sort of grip that purpose-built race circuits are going to have. So is this showing the slight difference there? Maybe Speed Queen going, I don't want to lose too much time here. Let's almost allow Living Wall kind of past and just try and follow him, stick in the DRS, and have a go a bit later when basically the tables are turned and reversed, and she has the mediums and Living Wall's on the hards.
No, exactly. I think Speed Queen would do well here to be able to keep that DRS, although she is slipping back. I'm not sure. I think her early lap pace perhaps flattered her overall race pace on this tyre. We will see a two-stopper tonight because Stefan has put a second set of mediums on, but presumably he wants to stay as close to his planned race strategy as possible. Be looking for a massive undercut as a result of making the first pit stop, and just got a fastest lap on those fresh tyres as well, with a complete front wing now. Ghost right behind Speed Queen, and with an opportunity here with DRS profit over Speed Queen's Red Bull, but these straights just aren't very long at all, JP.
No, but if you get it set up through 1 and 2, you got another bite of the cherry down to turn 3 here, but I don't think he's quite close enough. 4 tenths away, and the other problem with this circuit, which obviously we know Ghost is an ERS sort of specialist this season, but this circuit is very, very hard. I think that's simply who's gone spinning around at the final corner. Yes, it is. Yeah, ERS around here is going to be very hard to manage because a lot of it is flat out on the throttle now. There's not a lot of chance to really harvest and regain that energy once you've used it. So is Ghost possibly playing the longer game with the ERS as well, and just trying to use the DRS just to stick with for now? We've seen that.
He's deploying at this point. He saved loads of ERS. He waited till Speed Queen had spent a fair amount of hers. I don't know if he saw the red light at the back of her car, but she had been spending, and down into turn 12, our second overtaking to turn 12, and it's getting very very popular as for a move down there. Meanwhile, just behind these guys, we've got Burmeister defending hard from Smoke, but Ghost up to P3. I was going to say that he tends to set up the car for race pace, driving his own race. We've got a yellow flag down into sector 1. I don't think that's going to develop into anything, thankfully, but tends not to have tremendous top speed, Ghost, so he is going to find passing a little bit more difficult, but very good strategic
Smoke
use.
Down the inside of Burmeister,
that
contact!
Was very clumsy. He's almost helped Burmeister stay on the track there. I don't know if that was deliberate, but he almost stopped Burmeister going into a full-on spin.
Yeah, he's very, very, very lucky that Burmeister kind of got away with that one. It was a little bit of a late move from Smoke. The door was open, but I think he was just a little bit too far back, so not ideal that for Burmeister, because that's a bit of lost time to Ivan. And is it me, or is Burmeister looking like he's struggling with tyre temperature? Because that was a little bit of weaving through there.
I've switched focus slightly because there's a battle at the front has really developed. Under a second separates the top 3. Living Wall has closed right onto Delange, and Ghost is paying a watching brief behind. We'll see if Delange and Living Wall cooperate as they usually do. But the pressure mounting on Living Wall now. He needs the championship points versus Ghost. He could do with his teammate moving aside and maybe holding Ghost back slightly here.
Yeah, obviously the pair of them. I mean, Delange mathematically still in this fight for the driver championship.
True.
But also, this is all about the constructors, because as it stands, Alfa Romeo would get to 9 points behind Alpine with the current point situation. Yeah. So this isn't. I mean, I think most of the drivers are basically like, Ghost has won the championship for the drivers. Yeah. So a lot of them now, as we've heard the Haas team, they're focusing on this constructors battle. So in the Alfa Romeo camp, it probably doesn't matter who finishes in what order, just make sure you finish ahead of the Alpines.
But there's a win on the line, surely a win on the line in a championship where Ghost has done most of the winning. I'm sure the drivers would still take a win if it's on the table for them.
I think if for Living Wall to get past Delange, it would have to be an absolute dead certain move.
Yep.
And Ghost would not be able to capitalise and get past here, I think.
It is very close though. Speed Queen was momentarily under a second behind Ghost, and I wonder if we're entering that tipping point, start of almost the end of lap 7, and the medium tyres perhaps not in quite as good condition as the hards at this point. The hards should easily run at least 2/3 race distance. You can usually get the mediums to about halfway, maybe, on a good day, particularly if you're running the second stint on the mediums. But usually those on the hards want to get rid of them as soon as the medium window is open for the end of the race. So often you get the pit stops combining together.
We talk about that. Oh my word, Burmeister and Smoke on the grass, and there's more contact into turn 3. Burmeister off the road.
Well, I don't know quite how to call that one. It looked like it was Smoke's corner at that point, and Burmeister was making a point, but I don't know what conclusions you would draw from that one, JP.
I put it this way: I don't think I want to be in the conference room after. And Stefan has spun.
Oh,
Stefan is round at turn 4.
It's all going wrong for the Haas championship battle here for the title, the constructors' title, as Ghost is going to try and make that same move he made on Speed Queen. Hasn't quite got the pace, because also with DRS in front of him is Living Wall, and that is keeping these three together, is that DRS for both of them. Ghost's progress stymied slightly here.
It's very clever though, this from the Alfa Romeos. It very much looks like Living Wall is constantly just enough gap to not be a threat to Delange into turn 12, but still with the DRS enables him to stay ahead of Ghost, which, if this is planned by Living Wall in terms of making sure he's got that gap to Delange but to still keep Ghost behind, this is very clever driving for the constructors.
Lee Harding in the chat, good evening to you. He says big handbags with that battle between Smoke and Burmeister. It did look a little bit testy, shall we say, at this point. It was the second attempt. It did look like Smoke had more of the corner this time than he had the previous time, but neither driver willing to give up that corner, I guess.
Absolutely. And on to lap 9, a little bit of an update in terms of Drivers' Championship. At the moment, Ghost would not win the championship, but it would only be Living Wall who would be able to stop him if the race was to end like this. Okay,
so it would go down to 2, but I don't think the racing is done with these drivers. Ghost, remember, on the hard tyre, on a better strategy here, with only hard tyres drivers behind him of Speed Queen and Ivan Beloff, I think Ghost is definitely still very much on for the win here tonight.
Yeah, he's definitely eyeing it up. I mean, at present, second place. If he can just get past Living Wall, that would be the best starting point. But as we know, it's one thing to catch Living Wall, and as we've seen, it's another to overtake him, especially when you've got the two Alfa Romeos together in cahoots trying to stop you.
It's a narrow track, and it's the very short straight. I really think that if you're dead set on defending above all else, if you took the middle of this track, there really is no other. There really isn't an easy way to pass. Perhaps Living Wall, though, getting that a little bit closer to Delange. Ghost slipping back away slightly, and we'll see if Living Wall makes anything out of this run through the long turn 8, the no numbered turn of the sort of semi-straight on the approach to turn 9. Ghost not really in with a shout here into his now famous turn 12 move. but it's all evened out once again. Top three separated by less than a second. Delange, Livingwall, Ghost and Speed Queen in fourth, just behind this battle, flirting with the DRS detection, with the DRS enablement point of 1 second between them. Then comes Ivan Beloff with a little gap behind, and then a bigger gap of 4 seconds to his teammate Smoke. Ferrari on for a good finish at this point, as are Alpha Tauri, 7th and 8th after their starting positions. Didn't look too good. JP, I don't know if you're furiously doing maths or you had to step away from the mic for a second there. I heard some noises on the mic, so if you're there, say hi.
No, it's fine. I had to quickly get my drink, and the chair's a little bit squeaky, so mute the mic whilst I do it. But the key thing here, though, is look at the tyre situation.
Yeah.
This is the key part, because if this race stays dry, and this is another element we probably need to talk about.
Yeah.
If the race stays dry, because those mediums don't last forever, and if we're saying the rain's going to come in around the 60% completion mark, we've got a yellow flag. That's Smoke.
Oh.
That's out of turn 5. That's a scary place to drop the car. I'm assuming it looks like he's got away with no damage though, so that's a very lucky escape, because normally you go off at turn 5, you find yourself with 3 wheels on your wagon.
Absolutely. Car looking okay, but it could be feeling very different. He could have floor damage, could have rear wing damage that we can't see. But yeah, I think you were building up to talk about that potential. Can the drivers stay out in time for the rain? Is that what the medium drivers are trying to do here?
That is exactly all. I should say that. Delange comes into the pits. He decides, no, I want to go for another set of tyres. Question is, what set will those be? I mean, I'm assuming you're going to continue watching Ghost and Livingwall. I'll stay in the pit lane and watch Delange as he comes into the pit box. It is a set of hard tyres, so Delange thinking Delange thinking it's not going to rain, or at least not rain heavy enough for some wet weather tyre, by the looks of it.
So it does seem that prediction of rain would have lent the drivers, the smart drivers, I guess, towards using the hards, because it is the most flexible tyre. You can run the longest if we are waiting for rain at the end of the race. But it depends how quick the drivers are on fresh tyres when they come out as to whether the hards start. Sorry, I'm just wondering, did I just see merest flicker from the sky? I get very paranoid when it comes to rain, when we know it's coming, but because it does just look like the odd flicker to start with, a little streak across the screen. I'm not sure I've exactly seen it, but there we see. We've got strategy calls coming in from the chat. Some people comparing plan strategies, and a little bit of kidology, I think, starting. Obviously, our focus is on the main chat, but you guys enjoy yourselves. We may see the whole rainbow spectrum used today across the grid, but it depends how much it's going to rain. I did hear a couple of drivers referring to it as it's planning to team it down at the end. So depending on your interpretation, that could mean full wets. Livingwall less than a second ahead of Ghost, and I think the pace has dropped slightly then from the drivers as they try to run their tyres. It's IRL round on the final corner, and confirmed, JP, it definitely has started raining. That's perfect for Livingwall and Smoke, Stefan and Reshka.
Yeah, it's a bit of a blunder though for Delange. He's coming for some new tyres. I was wondering, however, as we've also seen with this game, sometimes it doesn't necessarily rain as hard enough to get to the wet stages, but with the amount of laps left, I'd be very surprised if we're not into at least intermediate tyres within the next probably 5 laps, because it does get, if it is going to get wet, it will get wet very quickly.
And Awaken says RAP Delange, Rip Delange, as his race strategy is in the bin at the moment for sure. Of course, with a wet race, it does mean more uncertainty for the drivers, more guesswork, less grip, of course, and it does tend to change the running order of everybody. Delange needs to maximise these next few laps though on the fresh tyres, and we'll see what the drivers can manage to do. But as you were saying, JP, it's the fact that it's a street circuit, it's surrounded by concrete barriers. The rain tends to sit in the track, gets spat up in the air and then just drops back again. It makes life very difficult for everyone. The earliest we were expecting rain was at 60% race distance. Well, we haven't quite reached 50% race distance, and it's already raining, albeit very lightly. It's not worsening at this stage.
No, and that's the only thing that Delange can be a little bit thankful, a little bit hopeful for right now, is that he's got the ability to try and use those tyres to get back up the order somewhat. Because the other factor is if have people set up their cars for the wet as well. That is another factor in this that we don't know about setups and stuff like that, because for all we know, the likes of Ivan could have a wet setup on his car, which come the end of this race might bring him right back into the fight. But
what would you anticipate being different around here for a wet setup? Because my impression here is that this would be a pretty high downforce setup to start with. Would it just be kind of ride heights and suspension?
Looking at some ride height, probably a little bit extra downforce as well, I'd have thought, right. Because obviously with the extra, if you have more ride height, the car becomes a little bit more negative on turning, and then also gets a little bit more loose on the rear, so you'd want a little bit extra wings just to compensate for that and make sure the car bites. And the other thing is also your tyre pressures, because on the game you can't change your tyre pressures on the fly. Once they're set at the race start, they're set. So is that maybe what we're seeing with Delange, is that maybe he's running those higher pressures ready for the wet, but because of that, on the dry tyres, it burns them out very, very quickly, whereas the wets need that higher pressure to open up the grooves and clear the water.
He's got some good grip at the moment. He's come up behind ARL, who had that little spin a couple of laps ago. ARL just moving around to discourage an overtake attempt here. I don't think Ghost is likely to make a move anytime soon. Just looking at positions changed over the race distance so far. Now we've hit halfway. Tirac has gone up 6 places, gaining a little bit from the misfortune of others, but definitely having a strong race, up 6 places from his start. Living Wall up 2, Ghost down 1, but that's not really the full story of his race. Speed Queen has gone up 3 places, as now Delange getting very, very close. I fancy Delange here into turn 12 perhaps. We'll ride with him and see if he's deploying any ERS. He's got the full deployment available to him. Presses the button. Let's see what he's got then. Which way does he go? He's shaped to the outside. Tirac closes off the braking zone slightly, but not enough to cause a problem. Here we go, out of turn 12 into turn 13. That's a new one again, and that was just extra drive with the new tyres. Tirac pits, Speed Queen pits from the Red Bull. She's decided it's time to go. I wonder if anyone is going to risk wet intermediate tyres at this point. It seems a little bit early, but I guess
it's a little bit too dry, and we haven't had the DRS disabled message yet, which is normally quite a good indicator of when the track's ready for it. I know a couple of weeks ago in F3, we kind of, I think it was F3 anyway, or in another race I raced in, we kind of went in a little bit earlier than the message, but it was about the right time. But yeah, that message is normally quite good. Ghost is right on the tail of Living Wall coming into the DRS zone.
The question is, now is the time to go for it. Here he goes. He's got the inside line and extra deployment. Oh, we get very, very close. Ghost really had to back out of that one. That was a championship trophy flashing before his eyes, I think.
Yeah, that's some good driving from Living Wall. This is the biggest problem with turn 12 nowadays, is that because it's so sharp on the inside, Ghost, you can really pinch someone, still leaving them a car's width, but because the angle is then so tight, it basically ruins the momentum of the inside car. So the outside line could be the defensive way into that corner.
That's true. We've got.
Reshka's gone into.
I was just going to say, yeah, he's rolling the dice first of all. Let's watch his interval, because 25.8 seconds is where he rejoins the race on intermediate tyres. I imagine that will stretch a little bit now. It's not really into weather at this stage, as Ghost runs a little bit wide coming out of the corner, obviously pushing to get back into contention here against Living Wall. I wonder if that will either spur him on to have another go or dissuade him, and he thinks maybe it's better to try and get the undercut or the overcut on Living Wall. Certainly Living Wall not willing to roll over for this championship just yet.
No, it's not the first time either we've seen Living Wall do something like this. Remember Austria, where he went on those
Yep.
hard tyres nearly, I think, to within about 6 or 7 laps of the end, and then came in and threw some intermediates on and went and won the race on the last lap. So Livingwall no stranger to these longer conditions, but I definitely think they were thinking, possibly Alfa Romeos are possibly thinking the rain was going to come a little earlier on going for those medium tyres.
Or potentially they were thinking right at the very end, and that they'd have plenty of time on the mediums and the hards to sort of even out the hard advantage.
I think if you're expecting that sort of thing, though, where the rain was going to come at the end and definitely going to have to pit, I think with the way you can choose your tyres now, I'd have gone double mediums.
Mm-hmm.
If you were absolutely dead certain there was going to be rain at the end that everyone had to come and pit on. Because you would always want to go for the grippiest option, because obviously once you hit wet tyres, you then do not, once it hits a wet race, you don't have to use both soft compounds.
So how are the drivers feeling with this level of precipitation at the moment, JP? Is this noticeable? Are they taking a gear higher through the corners? How's this feeling, do you think, at this point?
I think this is probably feeling okay. The rain isn't that heavy. The track doesn't look like it's really getting that wet per se. So they might be a little bit later on the throttle pickup coming out of corners, because it will probably feel a touch colder. And here we go, DRS disabled. This is normally the key element where we see that switchover period.
What I will say is that the PS4 does render rain a lot poorer for the spectator than for the driver. So the drivers are probably seeing more spray on the cars. Would you agree with that?
And Ghost in. Yeah, Liverpool and Ghost confirming with that message that it is now time for intermediates.
Now is that just the fact that they've had that message and they think, okay, that is clear, or is that just happenstance and feel at this point?
No, as soon as you get that DRS disable message, that is definitely time for intermediates. And your engineer, although Tirac,
is that a mistake?
Someone brought Pierre Gasly back in from Germany. I think that's very early for some wet tyres. He is going to struggle very much. Those are going to heat up, stay heated, and overheat. He's got no grip whatsoever through turn 1 and 2 out of the pits.
There's no puddles there. I wonder if that's just a little bit of controller or wheel trouble trying to select the tyres.
I think he's over clipped on his tyre compound selection, hasn't he? I think, and this is going to cost him. It's almost going to cost him his front wing. It is not quite going to cost him his front wing.
Is that a yellow flag as a result of Tirac? Yeah, okay, and he can barely keep those tyres on. He's done half a lap. Speed Queen has yet to pit. She is not going by what everyone else has done. I think Ivan is catching her though. This could be one lap too long, and suddenly the rain is really coming down. JP, I can see it splashing on the circuit already. Yeah,
obviously both of us on PS4 Web, so the wet surface and that doesn't always look as clear to us. But this is just one lap too long for Speed Queen, and this to a degree kind of confirms everyone's theory that when that DRS gets disabled, it's definitely the switch over time. So expect, although she's decided to stay out again. This is
okay.
Maybe her engineer's got different data to us, and she's thinking that the rain's only going to be here for about 5 minutes, so she'll already be on the slicks ready. Well, but ARL has come into the pits.
She's certainly no shortage of courage. Speed Queen always takes a different angle on the race. Lee Harding says, I think the W for the tyres stands for what? For Tirac. It's a good line.
Unsurprisingly, he's back in the pits. Probably for a set of intermediates.
And Liftboot says Ghost should have overtaken on the dries. Well, it's not for want of trying. He certainly had a go, but Livingwall certainly demonstrating that he's not going to be an easy one to pass today. Ghost on the intermediates, but JP, it's probably a good time with 9 laps to go to talk championship. Does Ghost even need to win this race today?
At present, yes, he does. Livingwall, unfortunately, if Livingwall wins this race, Ghost will be having to take this his celebratory party to the next round, which will be Brazil. It's not a bad place to have a party, is it? Let's face
it. Absolutely, no. Could be worse. Could be in Saudi or something.
If Ghost passes Livingwall here and wins this race, he will be champion.
Wow, so it's that simple. Fantastic. With the other championship contenders further down in the order at the moment, especially Stefan and Delange.
It's getting even weirder here for Tirak. He's gone back out on a set of medium tyres.
Okay, well maybe they just couldn't find the intermediates in the in the garage, and they just said it's raining, it's raining. No, it's not raining that mad. It just, oh dear, yeah. Tirak was having a good race up to this point. He had gained the most places over everybody on the circuit. Just one penalty on the entire grid so far. Reshka, a single 3-second penalty. Tremendously impressive from everyone here. It's a difficult track to stay within those track limits. I know I've seen Ghost several times across the apex of turn 10 having a problem. Liftboot says Speed Queen not losing a lot of time. I mean, she's lost 2 seconds since the last time I checked, a couple of laps ago. Ivan Beloff very close behind, but this is the battle not only for the race at the front but also for the championship, as JP just described. So I will try and keep my focus on Ghost versus Living Wall for the most part, as he tries to fake a little move.
One thing I would say about Ivan is that I'm amazed he hasn't yet got past Speed Queen.
Oh dear, that was, yeah. I was just on board, and I reflex braked myself to try and stop the car, because
he's surprising, because there's definitely a better grip on those inters, and here comes Speed Queen. Unless Speed Queen thinks that the intermediates won't make it to the end of this race, or is she going to take a flyer here?
Well, we've seen evidence in the last couple of years, certainly,
she's got intermediates,
that you can run the whole race on a single set of intermediates. So it would surprise me, honestly. It would really surprise me if she were in doubt about the inters. I don't know. I confess I don't know how that grip profile has changed, if anything, with the new handling model. But with the ground effect, has that increased tyre wear on the inters? A question that certainly I've not seen any evidence to be able to answer myself.
No. See, everyone else, obviously, because of Speed Queen coming in, obviously that was the kind of like the second fight you're watching now. The only fight at the front, as Reshka picks up another 3-second time penalty for track infringements, which, if he's not careful, is going to start playing into the hands of Tirak, especially if this dries back up again, which I don't see it happening. But Ghost still all over the back of Living Wall.
I imagine that Liftboot's sort of secondary point there about Ghost having should have used that dry tyre to make the move will be the fact that there's no DRS. Of course, he's going to be missing that. He will get a little bit of slipstream, and he'll have to do the rest of it on ERS, JP, I think, from now on.
Yeah, and this is the other problem here for Ghost, is obviously, as we constantly refer back to the ERS with him, that advantage kind of gets nullified in the wet conditions, because you don't use it as much, and you harvest a little bit more, because obviously you're braking earlier, you're coming off the throttle earlier. So it's key to remember, you harvest not just on the brakes, but as soon as you lift off that throttle, you're already harvesting energy. So if you're braking earlier, you're lifting off earlier, you're harvesting more. And
it's just
naturally,
a difficult spiral, isn't it? And yeah, as you say, like your rear grip limited on the way out of the corners for much longer as well, especially on these sweeping corners in the middle of the lap. Very difficult to apply ERS. You wouldn't want to light up the rears.
No, absolutely. So it kind of takes away Ghost's almost secondary weapon here.
Ooh, that looked good. That looked good going through 9 and 10. I thought he had a little squeeze of ERS through there, in fact. And of course, the rain light at the back of the car in front isn't going to make that moment to pounce any clearer for Ghost.
No, obviously most drivers use that in the dry, because they are harvesting with very little battery now. It's just, watch out, I'm here, make sure you can see me. Yeah. But
thanks, David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher.
Tirak has retired in the pits, which means luckily he's not going to get in the way of this fight, but it just calls yellow flags into turn 1 and 2, which I think what we saw earlier, whether when Simply retired. But it does mean now that if as long as the driver's finished, they will score points.
Yeah, and that will be good for Reshka, who is at the tail of the field, a little way down, but trying to get points here for Alpine. Has scored a tiny minority of the points for the team so far this season, but with the main rivals of of Haas and Alfa Romeo to the Alpine team, not scoring big, with both drivers to date. That's going to be interesting. What have you seen, JP?
Ghost had a bit of a twitch out of 7 into 8 there, which has cost him a touch of time. So is this Ghost getting a little bit impatient, or is it just a small mistake because it's wet? As that's not ideal for Delange. 3-second time penalty, especially when you've got Speed Queen behind you, only 3.7. That's not ideal for him or the constructors, which at the moment Alpine would leave here. If it was to finish like this and Delange kept 5th, Alpine would have a 18-point gap over the Alfa Romeos and a 22-point gap over the Haas team.
Well, for once, Ghost is struggling here to resist pressing the ERS button. He needs to stay close enough to Livingwall, but Livingwall has more ERS available to him than does Ghost. Livingwall not really having to spend because he's not defending from the DRS usage behind him either. So he knows that if he can keep that gap at around 0.4 or more, there's no way Ghost is going to be able to make a move.
Yeah, absolutely. He's nice and controlled, this from Livingwall.
Don't jinx him.
He is very good in the wet, though, to be fair. We've seen it before.
Yep.
We know he can handle it. It's just a case of whether Ghost can find that extra gear to really ramp up the pressure.
Yeah, he's got to get to this point now with 4 to go. He's going to have to try and force an error, and that will be moving around in the mirrors, JP. That'll be having a go around the outside, trying to take a wider line into a preceding corner where you know there's an opportunity coming up. Just make a nuisance of yourself.
Yeah, and ARL picks up 3 seconds now, which might be helpful for Stefan. But Ghost then through 9 and 10, you just saw the line through the first part was very, very nice. And
yeah.
You looked at the line through the second bit, and you'd think, yeah, a big twitch from Ghost. You'd think that the line through the second part was quite good from Ghost, but you saw that it hit the curb, and he couldn't get back on that throttle, which meant all the time he gained through turn 9 was lost on the exit of 10.
Right. Yeah, he does seem to carry more speed in to that section and lose it on the way out to Livingwall, who's driving a very smooth and consistent kind of pace here, and especially through that difficult sector. Perhaps just going with a little bit of a margin so we can get the additional drive out of the corner. As Jackie Stewart used to say, slow in, fast out is the best way through the corners. So we'll see if that rings true and stays true. There's 3.5 laps to go with this race. Livingwall still leads from Ghost. This could be one of those rare spotted things, a non-Ghost victory in this current season of Invictus Racing League. He's only failed to win twice so far this season. Could this be the 3rd time?
Yeah, it looks like Ghost actually. I don't know whether he's listening to the stream as he races or not, but that was a much nicer line through 9 and 10. You saw him be slightly slower through 9 and open the angle through 10, which means he can take the curb that he wants. So maybe he's now starting to figure out where he can possibly set Livingwall up.
Or maybe the whole race to this point has been a bluff, and this is the plan all along.
It'll be interesting, but I mean, if you go to this point, do you just follow Livingwall home? Just go, okay, we're not going to win the title here, but 60 points advantage going into Brazil, it's going to be pretty hard for someone. I mean, Ghost would have to pretty much retire from Brazil for that to continue on to Abu Dhabi. So is Ghost maybe now thinking more tactical in terms of championship? Let's just take the points and we'll clean it up at Brazil.
Well, I'm sure it's on his mind. I'm sure the championship long game is definitely there. I'm tempted to think, and maybe this is just an ignorant commentator's point of view, but I'm tempted to think he wants those win records come the end of the season. I'm sure if the win is on the table, he'll go for it. But certainly driving with his head at the moment. Ghost hasn't lost his head. He's had one attempt with Livingwall that we've seen on stream at least. But there we go. We'll see Wow, Liftboot says, if Ghost wins today, he would have had 3 championships in 4 days across different leagues. He's obviously not just special here in Invictus Racing League's PS F1 League.
No, he's a very, very quick driver as Ghost, and it seems like all the other leagues is paying off dividends in terms of generalised practice. Because obviously the more you play the game, the quicker you're going to get at it. But yeah, Ghost, this gap is just hovering around that 3/10 region, isn't it? But in other news, Delange in the moment will lose out on 5th place to Speed Queen due to his penalty, which will not help him nor Alfa Romeo.
Will she see much by way of better grip with 3-lap younger tyres at this stage, or will they have kind of equalised?
No, I mean, that 3-lap stays with you throughout the whole stint, in reality, because that difference in tyre wear is always going to be there. So, Speed Queen tyres should be better, but in terms of the intermediates, they won't be that much better, because generally speaking, if you're 5 laps difference, then you have quite a bit of a bigger advantage. But 3 laps won't be so much. But we know how good Speed Queen is also in the wet, so that does go her way and her advantage. And again, she might have a wet setup in comparison to Delange.
Certainly, during my tenure here at Invictus, Ghost has been quick, but not necessarily a consistent front runner. Something has happened with this game, with these handling mechanics, with this particular practice regimen that he's gone through. This could be, he might be well trying to go for it here as he gets closer and closer. But this season has absolutely been the rocket ship that Ghost needed, I think, and it seems to be bearing witness across different leagues, if we're allowed to mention any other universe other than Invictus Racing League, of course. Some tyre markings developing on the track. I think the rain is easing a little bit, possibly a hint of a dry line, but it's coming way too late for any change in the order. Ghost now out to 5/10
from Living Wall.
It is.
That was wide from Living Wall through 5. I mean, if Ghost can set this up and uses ERF wisely, he could set this up if he coming out of 10, but Living Wall wise, he's going to take the racing line.
Oh, that was too much too soon, was it, Ghost? Couldn't keep the momentum, had to delay his throttle application. This is the last possible opportunity, and Ghost tries everything he can. Living Wall sweeping around the outside. Cool as you like. He's keeping on this one. Anything other than a complete bin moment in the last 2 corners, and it looks like Living Wall will be one of the very few drivers this season to prevent a Ghost win. Living Wall out of the final corner, takes the win in Australia. Take a picture. Fantastic work from Living Wall, the Swede, and Ghost completing another fantastic race. Takes a 10th podium so far this season, and there goes Ivan Beloff in P3 to get a great result for your F2 reigning champion. Burmeister in 4th. Will he hold on to that? Yes, because no penalties on the card. Delange crosses the line a few seconds ahead of Speed Queen, but it's not enough to keep that 5th position. Speed Queen up to 5th. Good performance. Smoke rescuing his race back to P7. ARL will cross the line in P8. We have Stefan. Underwhelming race after what we assume to be contact with Ghost, and maybe there's more to tell in the stewards. Reshka will cross the line for a points finish and bringing some points home, but Living Wall is your winner tonight from a tremendously well-held race. Really, really good, making certainly Divine in the chat happy. And there he goes, cheering on. Burmeister picks up driver of the day. You agree with that one, JP?
Yeah, it wasn't a bad drive from Burmeister. I mean, he has probably gained the most positions, which is what the game tends to base things on.
Yeah.
So it was a good drive from Burmeister, but I mean, it sounds a bit obvious, really. But Living Wall there, that pressure at the end, that was a fantastic drive to fend off Ghost. And it now means it's a 2-horse race in the championship between himself and Ghost, albeit a very minor chance for Living Wall, but a chance nonetheless.
Absolutely, it's not over until it's over. He lifts the winner's trophy, and and it's champagne time for Living Wall. He'll enjoy that. I'm sure Ghost will reflect on a very good performance, and knowing that he's got the championship almost spoken for. Come with what was probably got 4 races to go in the championship. Don't disappear on us. We hope to have the podium sitters with you, but JP will take us through the final standings, and then you can drop your questions in the chat for our podium.
Yeah, so Living Wall takes his second win of the season, only one of 2 drivers other than Ghost to win a race this season. Ghost does finish second, and the party celebrations move on to Brazil for him in the championship. Ivan Belov, his first podium of the season, if I'm not mistaken, in the Ferrari, is a great result for him, especially this latter part of the season. Burmeister 4th with the Games Driver of the Day. Speed Queen 5th, Delange demoted to 6th after his time penalty. Smoke in 7th, ARL finishing 8th, Stefan in 9th. Reshka, the last man to finish and score a point for his team. Tirak and Simply, unfortunately, retiring in the pits. Tirak, that was basically a Pierre Gasly from Germany moment from AlphaTauri. And it got even worse when he came back out on a set of slick tyres. But, credit due to the team for trying something different, eh?
And what will the audience and the races from other leagues, F2 tomorrow, F3 Wednesday, and the PC and Realistic Performance Leagues on Thursday, what they will have learned from this race, do you think? Anything at all?
No. Absolutely not. It depends if you get a similar sort of race, similar sort of conditions, really. But if it's a fully dry race, they'd have learned absolutely nothing. I've learned completely nothing about the tyre strategy because Living Wall made those mediums go until the intermediate period.
And what about Speed Queen delaying that start? Did she really? She I guess she gained a place after all by
she
waiting.
She could have had 3rd. I think she's lost out on 2 places there. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think, obviously, she lost the place to Ivan on track.
Yep.
I think had she come in with everyone else, bear in mind, she doesn't have a teammate to worry about either in the pits, so there's no double stack or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's probably potentially lost out on a 3rd place there.
Okay, well, I know that Ghost has joined the party. I haven't seen Ivan Belov or Living Wall. I hope that they will come and say hey. Let me just ping him and see if he'll join us. I don't know if they're actually in the party at all. They've had an invite yet. But we'll talk to Ghost if Living Wall doesn't show up in the next few seconds, because he's waiting very patiently.
I'll invite Ivan in as well.
Yeah, thank you. And we've got I'll update people from the driver chat as well if I can see what's going down. But Living Wall, just before I go to Ghost. So Ghost, please wait patiently. Continue to wait. Living Wall and Ivan, please check your party audio setting is set to share before we get going. But Living Wall, congratulations. That looked like a very, very tough night racing.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it was really hard. I know Ghost was gonna be pretty quick on those inters behind me, so I just tried to hold on and stay away from a 3rd warning, so just keep the car between the lines, basically.
Any struggles out there for you tonight, or was it just about keeping focus and keeping accurate?
I would say mostly focus. It was kind of hard in the first stint because I catched up with DeLange, but I wasn't really that much faster than him, I believe. So we just tried to stay away from the guys with the hard tires and try to build a gap. And then he went for the pits, and I gambled and tried to stay up until the inters.
Yep. It worked out well for you. You nullified the advantage that Ghost had starting on the hard tyre that he was queuing up for and waiting for those mediums to come off. But yeah, it looks like you made it work. How about you, JP? Any questions for our only one of 2 drivers to have prevented Ghost from winning a race this season?
Yeah, absolutely. I was congratulating on his 2nd win this season. Only the 2nd person to have multiple wins this season, courtesy of another driver. The key thing there for you was obviously staying out on those mediums, but how hard was it, and how destroyed were those mediums? I can't imagine they'd be much fun at the point you came into the pits, especially with Ghost on the hards.
No, it was kind of like a replay of Austria. I think they were 75% worn or more. So I would have to pit that lap anyway, and then the DRS disabled when it was like 3 or 4 corners left of the lap, so it was just straight into the pits. And by then I knew I was gonna come out ahead of him on inters, so the DRS would be disabled. So I just tried to keep ahead of him where I could and slow him down where I needed, basically.
Well, congratulations. Go ahead. Sorry,
just say as well, you are the only man as well now stopping Ghost from having some celebrations and parties tonight. So it'll be interesting to see if you can continue that into Brazil.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully we can prolong it a little bit.
But also, I'm sure going for the constructors' title as well, Alfa Romeo with the best team score tonight overall will definitely help with that bid. Congratulations, Living Wall. Really entertaining and high quality driving there. Really good stuff.
Thanks,
Ghost, we'll come to you next, Ghost. It's odd to not have you talking first in the press conference. I thought we were not going to break that record, but it's Ghost in second place. Ghost, it seemingly went wrong lap 1. Talk us through that lap 1, because we didn't catch exactly what happened. Just 2 drivers in completely different parts of the racetrack and a kick-up of damage from Stefan Rand's car.
I don't know what happened to Stefan. I had already lost it by the time that whatever happened to him happened to him. He got me at the start, fair and square, and then I think it was where is it? It's the corner before the big twisty straight. I just lost the rear and managed to keep it out the wall, but lost 3 places.
Yeah. And that hurt you all the way down to turn 12, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did. I think I lost the place to Ivan as well, so it was 4 places in the end. So then I had to recover back up, and that cost me not only all the way down to turn 12, but also all the way through the race, because I was behind Living Wall. He drove an absolutely amazing race. I don't know how he managed to keep those mediums going. And I just couldn't get past him. The mistakes, I could see a few tiny mistakes on the last lap, and I thought this might be my chance, but he managed to keep it going, got it through the chicane fine, so I thought, fair enough, go for it.
JP?
I mean, obviously, it's unusual, obviously, to speak to you in a second, but the key thing here, I think, do you feel in the wet conditions, you have this, in the dry you have this advantage with your ERS, you're able to defend without really using it, which means you've got a lot more than anyone else normally at the end of a race. Do you feel in the wet that kind of nullifies that sort of advantage, especially if you're trying to chase someone, because obviously the harvesting is much greater in comparison to the dry?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Completely destroys the ERS advantage that I sometimes have in the dry, because everyone can save it really easily. So yeah, I was trying to drain it as much as possible, make sure I wasn't keeping too much in the tank, because I would be losing pace, because it's so easy to gain it back, especially on this track as well. Even in the dry it's really easy to gain it back, so in the wet it just comes back straight away. So yeah, but I mean, that and obviously not having DRS is a big thing, but I do tend to like the rain, just because it creates some really close racing a lot of the time. So yeah, but I mean, the rain races haven't gone too well for me this season, but this one was a nice redemption for that, because I think I drove really well today. So yeah.
Yeah, it looked. If anything, I have to say, from an outsider's point of view, it looked like you were slightly looser on the track than Living Wall over the course of the race. But you had a go into turn 12. Talk us through that moment.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I knew he was weak in that part of the track, and I was trying to take advantage of that the whole race. But he didn't make quite enough of a mistake, except on that lap. I was close enough to go for it, and yeah, he was having absolutely none of it. He just went straight around the outside, and I was like, "Yep, all right, fair enough, you go." I'm just, yeah. So yeah, it was an attempt, and I was kind of hoping he would not hang it all the way around like he did, but yeah, fantastic defense from him, and that was the only real chance I had. So yeah, that was it.
Great stuff. Well, yeah, your tremendous season continues. It may not be quite the number of record wins that you were hoping for, but we'll see what the remaining 4 races have got to come. I know Ivan's been waiting a very long time, and I must get to Ivan. Ivan, reigning F2 champion, and your first podium here in F1, I believe, and that was a tremendously well fought race. Talk us through how you made your way up the grid today.
Hello everyone, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Let me wait and see. I'll confirm. Go ahead.
Congratulations to Living Wall and Ghost. It looks like these two had a brilliant battle in front of me, and yeah, first podium. I'm very glad, to be honest, and it was a little bit tricky for me, especially in an intermediate stint. Had some battles with Speedy Queen, and yeah, I'm very glad.
Yeah, that was very. It's great to see you, and great to talk to you again. I know I talked to you several times through the F2 season previously. JP, any questions for Ivan tonight?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, congratulations. Your first podium of the season, which you're obviously going to be absolutely delighted with, and you're probably going to feel you should have had a couple more earlier this season. But you're a bit of a silent person on track in reality. Just kind of like, what was the plan for tonight? Was it just go about your business, and what will be, or did you have specific places you wanted to achieve for tonight?
I didn't expect that we'll have a rain, and only before the start I decided to use hard compound, and it looks like it was a good choice for me. And then I just tried to do my best, race really careful, and that's all. It's my first season here, and I just want to understand the tier, how. Excuse me. Just want to understand the other drivers, their style.
Excellent. I'm sure it's great to get on the podium as well. Congratulations, Ivan, Ghost, and Living Wall, our podium today. And we will see everybody back again in Brazil next time round. Things are getting a little bit dicey in the driver chat. Some accusations going out between drivers. I won't embarrass anybody, but I will say Stefan has given quite a comedic view of his own lap 1. So no contact was made between Stefan and Ghost, it seems, in that lap 1. So I don't think we've got any asterisks here, JP, tonight.
No, and we'll definitely save Stefan from a bit of an embarrassment on that one. It's fair to say a little bit of a rookie error, should we say, from Stefan.
Well, you get to show everyone how to do it in F3 on Wednesday, I'm sure.
I very much doubt that, not very much doing. But I mean, back with the F1, obviously, it's fair to say the title is going to be wrapped up at Brazil, unless a miracle happens with Living Wall and Ghost suddenly retires from the race. It's fair to say that this title should be wrapped up next week, but the Constructors is probably where we're going to focus a lot more now, Webbo, in terms of how close it is. I mean, 22 points covering the top 3.
Wow, yeah.
And
very, very close.
If Delange and Stefan get back to their normal ways next week in terms of where they normally finish, that's going to get very, very tight indeed.
Well, we'll look forward to that. Make sure you join us same time next week. Make sure same time tomorrow, and throughout the week you tune into the channel. Leave us a like on the video. We thank you for your comments so far, and if you want to leave anything in the comments that you're watching it back, do make sure to do that. You can follow me on Twitter at WebboRed5. I know JP, you're on Twitter as well, but you don't tend to say a great deal. Is that fair?
No, that's a fair point to be fair. It's like one of those things. I ought to, but I never get around to it.
But also make sure, most importantly, to follow at InvictusRL. So thanks to everyone for watching. Thanks for all your engagement. Thanks, JP, for joining us despite not feeling brilliant. But hopefully you'll be all well in time to race on Wednesday. From me, Webbo, Red5, and from everyone here at Invictus Racing League, we will all catch you on the next race day.